Hey there everyone, welcome to Sourav Sir Classes, and here we are going to solve section C of the second paper of Indian Economic Service 2024. So question number 11, they have asked you what is green national income, how it is computed, explain why green national income accounting is essential for sustainable human development. Okay, that's the first question that we are going to discuss today. So now let us define this. So you have to define green national income. So it is an what? Economic. What it is? What it is? An economic indicator that incorporates the environmental cost associated with economic activity into the standard GNI calculations, and it reflects what? Nation's economic well-being while acknowledging the depletion and degradation of natural resource caused by that progress. Okay. Now, there are certain adjustments to traditional GNI to calculate green GNI. So, what are the points of adjustment that you have to mention? Environmental damage cost. It includes what? The cost associated with environmental degradation and pollution. Example, expenses related to cleaning up pollution, health costs due to environmental factors, etc. Next, natural resource depletion. Adjustments are to account for the depletion of natural resources. So this can involve estimating the value of resources extracted and adjusting GNI to reflect the loss of these resources. And third, ecological services. That is basically your economic value of economic system services that are not typically included in traditional economic measures. This includes services like water purification, pollination, climate regulation provided by natural ecosystems, so all this. So these three are the types of costs that are needed to be subtracted from the traditional GNI to calculate the green GNI, right? Now, how is green GNI accounting is crucial for sustainable human development? So there are several reasons. Number one, holistic economic measurement. Second, you can say policy guidance. Now, what is holistic economic measurement? So, it provides a more accurate reflection of economic welfare by including environmental cost and benefits. So, you can understand that this will guide policymakers in making decisions that promote what? Long-term sustainability rather than short-term gains. Policy guidelines also, by incorporating environmental costs, GNI accounting can guide what? Policy decisions towards sustainable practices. It helps in identifying sectors or activities that impose significant environmental cost, encouraging policies to mitigate these impacts. Apart from these, there are other reasons like what? Long-term planning, sustainable development goals. So, green national income aligns with the global sustainability goals. For example, what? Such as those outlined in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. It supports effort to achieve environmental sustainability alongside economic growth and social development. So this is how it contributes to SDGs as well. Apart from that, public awareness is another important point. That is, it raises awareness among the public and business about the true costs and awareness of the economic activity. So this can lead to more responsible consumer behavior and corporate practices that prioritize sustainability. So green national income accounting enhances traditional economic measures by integrating environmental considerations. So you can say that it provides a more comprehensive view of economic progress that is essential for achieving what? Sustainable human development and ensuring that economic growth is not achieved at the expense of environmental degradation, because that is also to be taken care of. Understood? So these are the points you need to mention while you answer this question. Next question, number 12. Let us mark it. So, what is Stolper-Samuelson theorem? So, basically it is a fundamental result in international trade theory that examines what? The relation between factor endowments. By endowments, what do you mean? We mean labor capital and commodity prices in a free trade scenario, right? So, the statement of the theorem is basically under the assumption of perfectly competitive market and free trade. Number one is factor price equalization. That is what? Removal of trade barriers like tariff tends to equalize the returns to factors. What do you mean by returns to factors? Factors are like labor and labor and capital. So wage and rent of these respectively are the returns to factors we are talking about. Okay, price changes. So specifically an increase in the price of a good will lead to increase in the return. If the price of a commodity increases, then the factor used to make that good abundantly will also increase. That is, let us say if I am using labor, then the wages will increase, right? So in turn, if the firm will have to pay more, then it will reduce the use of the factor. So that is the conditions here. So now factor intensity is what goods are produced using different intensities of factor. That means labor and capital. Abundant means how much labor and capital is present in the economy. Abundance. Okay. Intensity means which factor is used more in producing a particular commodity. So a good is considered labor intensive if it requires higher proportion of labor to capital in its production. Understood? So that is labor intensive good. And if you are using capital more than labor, then it is a capital intensive good. So by intensity we mean the amount of labor or capital used in the production level. So when a country opens up to free trade and specializes in producing goods that intensively use its abundant factor, the price of that good in the domestic market will rise. Why? Because there is increase in demand. So this increase in the price of labor intensive good will lead to what? Higher wages for labor, and the return to the scarce factor will decrease because its production is reduced or it competes with cheaper imports, right? So these are the reasons. Now when wages increases, according to Stolper-Samuelson theorem, liberalizing trade will result in higher wages for labor. So this occurs because the economy will tend to export goods that are labor intensive, causing increased demand for labor and thus higher wages. Capital returns decrease. Conversely means what? The return on capital will decrease because capital intensive industry will shrink due to competition from cheaper imports and reduced local demand, right? So income distribution now will within the labor abundant economy will change. Why? Because the laborers will benefit from higher wages, leading to reduction in income inequality between labor and capital owners. So that means you can say that Stolper theorem provides insights into how trade liberalization affects factor prices and income distribution within an economy. Okay, so these are the points that you need to explain it. I have said. So next question is, explain disequilibrium in the BOP. Elucidate the monetary and non-monetary measures to correct disequilibrium in the balance of payments. Correct? Right. So BOP is a record of all economic transactions between a country and the rest of the world over a specific period, right? So it tracks both inflows, means the receipts, and outflows, means the payments of the money. So these flows should balance each other out, means the amount of receipts should be equal to amount of payments. So that is balanced. If receipts are greater than payments, then it's surplus. If receipts are less than payments, then it is deficit. So this is not the case. So whenever there is trade surplus, or let's say BOP is in surplus or deficit, that means it is BOP disequilibrium. So deficit means when payment exceeds the receipts, and the surplus means when receipts exceeds the payments. Understood? Now correcting this disequilibrium, there are monetary and non-monetary measures. Let's talk about monetary measures first. So there are two. We can talk about interest rate adjustments and foreign exchange intervention. So what is interest rate adjustment? So charging interest rate can affect currency exchange rates. Higher interest rates can attract foreign investment, leading to capital inflows and potentially a surplus. And conversely, lowering interest rates can make exports cheaper and discourage what? Imports. So aiming to reduce the deficit. So that's how the interest rate will adjust. And next is foreign exchange intervention. So when central banks can directly buy or sell these foreign currency to influence the exchange rate, buying foreign currency increases domestic money supply and weakens the domestic currency. So potentially making exports more competitive, and conversely selling foreign currency strengthens the domestic currency, which can make imports cheaper. So this is how monetary measure can adjust and bring the disequilibrium back to equilibrium. And what about the non-monetary measures? So there are trade policies, fiscal policies, and promoting direct investment. So what about trade policies? Government can implement policies like what? Tariffs, quotas on imports to make them more expensive and encourage domestic production. And conversely, they can offer subsidies or free trade agreements to boost exports. What about fiscal policy? So government can influence the aggregate demand through spending, that is increasing the government expenditure, and tax policies. So increasing government spending or lowering taxes will stimulate the aggregate demand, which in turn increases production and potentially reduce a trade deficit. Okay, and if the spending is decreased or taxes are raised, then it will reduce the demand for imports. And the last one is promoting foreign direct investment. So attracting foreign companies to invest in the domestic economy can bring in capital inflows and boost economic activity. So the choice of measures basically depends on what? The specific type of disequilibrium and the government's economic goal. So it's important to find that right balance, as some measure might have unintended consequences. Okay, so these are some important points that you should mention while writing this answer. Moving on to question number 14. So question number 14 reads, explain Human Poverty Index as a measure of human development. How is it different from Physical Quality of Life Index, PQLI? Okay. So first of all, HPI, that is Human Poverty Index, was a tool developed by the United Nations, and why? To assess the poverty in a comprehensive way than just the income level. So the aim of this was to complement Human Development Index, HDI, by giving a clear picture of how deprived the people were in different countries. So the measure how much deprived they were, to compare that, HPI was developed. It works in as a complementary policy or measure with HDI. Okay, so while the HDI looks at income, right, education, what else, life expectancy, HPI drilled deeper into this aspect to understand the deprivation, like how deprived the people are. So what are the components that we take into account here? Longevity. Longevity means the measured how long people could expect to live. HPI considered factors like access to healthcare, nutrition, etc. Then knowledge, right? So this looked at illiteracy rates and school enrollment. The focus was on whether people had the chance to learn and develop skills or not. And then decent standard of living. This is beyond just income. It looked at things like access to clean water, hygiene, sanitation, and shelter. Basically, people could meet their basic needs or not for a healthy life. So the HPI had separate versions also in different situations. Like HPI 1 was used for developing countries. HPI 2 was designed for developed countries with different socio-economic factors and ways of measuring deprivation, etc. Now, as we are asked, we have to differentiate between HPI and PQLI. So the important points are of difference are mainly dimensions. So first of all, HPI includes additional dimensions like access to safe water, nutritional status, right? Whereas PQLI focuses solely on life expectancy, infant mortality rate, and literacy. So the HPI is more in-depth analysis of the development of a nation compared to PQLI, right? Now scope of HPI, that's why what? Provides a broader view of poverty and deprivation covering both material and non-material. Material means what? Standard of living. Non-material means what? Education and health aspect. So PQLI on the other concentrate more narrowly on what? Fundamental health and education outcomes. And lastly, calculation of HPI is a more complex formula. Whereas PQLI is a straightforward average of the three indicators of life expectancy, infant mortality, and literacy. So while both HPI and PQLI measure of human development, HPI offers a more comprehensive view by including dimensions beyond health and literacy, making it a broader and potentially more nuanced tool for assessing poverty and well-being in the developing countries. Alright, moving on to question number 15. Critically examine the role of multinational corporations in the global economic development. So it's very interesting question. Here you have to basically talk about the positive contributions and the challenges and concerns as well, right? It's basically critical analysis. So good and bad, both you have to define here. So MNCs are undeniably influential actors, right? In the global economic landscape, we can say that. The impact on development is a complex issue with both positive and negative aspects. So let us first discuss the positive contributions of MNCs. So the first one is definitely job creation, investment and job creation. So MNCs bring in what? Foreign direct investment, which fuels economic growth. So this capital allows them to establish production facilities, creating jobs and boosting local economies. Technology transfer and innovation, second contribution. So MNCs often what? Bring cutting edge technology and expertise to developing countries. This lead to what? Innovation, improved productivity, development of local skills through training programs, etc. Right? Third one is market access and integration. MNCs can act as a bridge for developing countries, introducing their products and services to international markets. So this integration fosters what? Global trade and economic ties, which is good for the economic growth. Infrastructural development, number 4. MNCs sometimes invest in infrastructure projects like transportation network, communication system to support their own operations. So this infrastructure can benefit the broader community as well. So these are some of the positive contributions. Now let's discuss the challenges and concerns, right? So here, they basically, the number 1 is exploitation of labor and resources. Coming to different nation where the labors are found at a cheaper rate and using up the resource of that country means what? In the pursuit of profit, MNCs might exploit cheap labor and natural resource in developing countries, which can lead to unfair wage rates, unsafe working conditions and environmental degradation. Not only this, unequal distribution of benefits. Second problem, the economic gains for MNC activity may not be evenly distributed. Local communities might be left with minimal benefits while the corporation reaps the majority of the profits. Third is market domination and local business. The large size and resource of MNCs can stifle competition, hindering the growth of local business. So this can create a situation of dependence on foreign corporations, right? Tax avoidance and profit shifting. MNCs can exploit loopholes in international tax laws to minimize their tax burden. So this deprives developing countries of revenue that could be used for crucial development projects. So to maximize these positive contributions that we have discussed and minimize the problems that we have just discussed, there are certain approaches that are needed. Number 1, we can talk about stronger regulations. Government should implement regulations that ensure fair labor practices, environmental protection and responsible business conduct by MNCs. Second, we can talk about international cooperation. International cooperation is crucial to establish global standards for corporate behavior and prevent tax evasion by MPCs. And third one is focus on sustainable development. MNCs should embrace sustainable development practice that minimize what? Environmental impact, that ensure long-term benefits for the host communities. So these are some major points that you should discuss in order to answer this question. And the last one from section C is question number 16. Differentiate between demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. Describe in detail their cause and impact on the economy. Suggest appropriate policy measures to control inflation. All right. So first of all, let us discuss what demand pull inflation and cost push inflation are. So basically, in case of demand pull inflation, what happens that there is a sudden increase in aggregate demand. Due to increase in aggregate demand that basically outpaces the aggregate supply, there will be always excess supply. So to maintain the equilibrium, the price in the economy will go up. Okay, so if I draw the diagram for demand pull inflation, there is increase in aggregate demand due to which there is increase in price level in the economy. So inflation due to increase in demand. Now what are the causes for this shift in the aggregate demand? It can be increased consumer spending. Okay, government spending might increase, exports might increase, or some monetary policy like lowering interest rate or increasing money supply can stimulate demand. So these possible reasons that stimulate demand will shift the aggregate demand on the right. As a result, the price level in the economy will increase to maintain the equilibrium. Now what are the impact on the economy apart from rising prices? This is inflation, of course. Potential economic growth. Initially, it may lead to economic expansion as business increase production to meet demand, as you can see here. This has also increased, right? Apart from the inflation, there is growth also. And income distribution means those with fixed income or savings may see a decrease in the purchasing power if their income does not keep up with the inflation. Okay. So what are the policy measures to control this demand pull inflation? Monetary policy, that is central banks can increase interest rate to reduce borrowing and spending, thereby decreasing the demand. Fiscal policy, government can decrease spending or increase taxes. And supply side policies is basically improving productivity through investment in technology, infrastructure, education that will increase the supply and mitigate the inflationary pressure. So this is your demand pull inflation. Now let us talk about cost push inflation. To understand cost push inflation, so this is the type of inflation that is increase in price in the economy due to the decrease in supply. Okay, so there is Y and there is P. So this is your aggregate demand initial and this is your aggregate supply 1. So equilibrium price and output is here. Now suppose, let us say, cost of production has increased in the economy, due to which the production has decreased, so the aggregate supply will shift to the left. As a result, the price level has increased. So this is the cost of production that increases, that reduces supply, will increase the price level, hence the name cost push inflation. Okay. So now what are the causes that can shift AS curve to the left are, as I said, rising input cost, supply shocks, that can be natural disasters, geopolitical events, disruptions in supply chains. So all this can reduce supply and increase cost. Apart from that, wage push inflation is there, tax and regulation. So these are some of the examples that can cause a leftward shift in the aggregate supply that increases price level. So impact on the economy is not only increase in price, that is inflation, and a reduced purchasing power and a reduced profit margin, but also stagnation. So this is the concept of stagflation under cost push inflation. Okay. So what are the policies that can be taken to control cost push inflation? So there is supply side policy, like government can reduce regulatory burdens, provide subsidies, invest in infrastructure to reduce production cost. Wage controls, government can intervene to moderate wage increase. Energy policy, right, encouraging efficient energy and investment in alternative resources that can impact the mitigate the impact of energy price shocks. So these steps can be taken to control the cost push inflation. So we can conclude this with the point that both the demand and cost push inflation have what? Distinct causes, effects, policy responses. So effective management of inflation often requires a combination of monetary, fiscal and supply side policies to address the specific factors driving inflation in a particular economy. So central banks and governments play crucial role in implementing these policies to ensure price stability and sustainable economic growth. And this is how you have to answer this question. So with this, I have completed the discussion of paper 2, Indian Economic Service 2024. Next, we will discuss the other questions of the other papers. Stay tuned.